back to my YouTube channel, and this is going to be the 10th part of our e-commerce series. In this video, what we will do is that we will implement the login and sign up feature, which is like the basic feature which is required for any product. And along with that, one more thing that I'll do is I'll do the localization. So right now you can see that all the strings and these kind of stuff is hard coded, like in different part of code section. Now what we will do is that we'll take it to one place and we'll try to translate it to one or two different languages, and I'll show you how easy it can be to translate your app to different languages. So without just wasting any time, I'll straight away jump to the code and I'll start working on implementing the first login screen. Okay, so basically, as you know that for any kind of implementation, the first thing we need is to go to our domain section over here, and inside domain we need to define all the abstraction that are related to that. Right now you can see I have these repositories, but there is no user repository. So the first thing that I'll do over here is that I'll create a new Kotlin class that is going to be an interface, which means that it is going to be an abstraction. And over here what I'll do is that I'll define user repository. Okay, this means this user repository is there. And then the second thing over here that we need is that over here we need to define a function that will help us log in or like sign up according to the requirement. So basically you can see over here that right now I've just set it to boolean, but these are not going to be boolean. These are going to be a proper response of user that we get. And so what I'll go is that I'll get over here into the model section, and then I'll create a Kotlin class and I'll call it user domain model. Okay, and this is going to be a data class, so that is my data class. And inside the user domain model class, what I'm going to do is that I'll keep these things, which means this is going to be the ID that we receive from the server. Then we have a username, we have an email, and we have a name. So these are the four things that we might receive from the backend, right? And since you know that once we create this, we can use it over here as a result wrapper. Okay, and inside that I'll define this, right? And this is going to be the same for this as well. So both the responses should be same. So I'll keep it this way. Now once that is done, we have login and register endpoint setup. The next thing is that we need to define or update our network service as well. Like over here you can see that we don't have those definitions. So what I'll do is that I'll add the same definitions over here. So this is done, and now our repository is done, our user domain. The next thing that I'll do over here is that I need to define the use cases. So over here what I'm going to do is that I'll create a new Kotlin class, and now let's call it login use case. Okay, we create a class that is going to take user repository as a response, and this is pretty much what it should do. Like it will take the repository and it will log in, right? And I'm gonna do the same thing for register as well. So that is going to be register use case, and over here this is going to be register, and along with that it should also take a name as well, name as a string if I'm not wrong, and over here we'll pass name as well, and now it should fix. Okay, so these are the two use cases that I have created now. Okay, so I have this login and user use case created. Now I guess all the things related to our domain section are done. The next thing that we need to do is that we will get over here into this network service implementation, and once we go over here, it will start complaining about this error. So that's something that we need to fix. And over here now you can see that we have this login and register setup, right? Along with that, we need these two requests. One request is going to be our login request that basically passes as an email and password, and the second request is going to be our register request. So we need to create those requests as well over here. So what I'm going to do is that I'll create a new Kotlin data class. Okay, and that is going to be my login request. Okay, that's one thing, and inside login request I'll be passing these two things, but remember to make it serializable before doing anything. So this is going to be my login request that is gonna have this, and along with that, sorry, this should go over here. Along with that, I'll create another class that is going to be my register request. Okay, and this is also going to be a data class, and the data class means that now it should take these three things as a parameters, right? So these should be there as well. And now the next thing that I need is that I'll be creating user response object that is going to be a data class, and that is more or less going to be like what we have for user domain model over here. So it's going to be the same thing, so I'm gonna paste it over here like this, and along with that we'll also implement this functionality which will convert it to the domain model as well. Okay, that will basically help us to map the responses. Now we have this domain section ready, we have login and registers, sorry, yeah, so inside this domain now we have these things. Now I'll go over here and I'll start working on this. So for register, what we need is that we will be using base URL, and along with that we will be using sign up. Okay, now this is the request, but over here you can see that it is creating a map of, but we don't need the map of. What I'm gonna do is that I'll create register request, right, and then it requires these things, so I'll pass those values to it. Now over here it should not get response, so it is going to take user response, but what we can do is that we can convert it to domain model so that it can work it. And one more thing that I missed over here, that we need to make it serializable. Without that it will not work. Okay, so now this is done for our register, and now we will do the same thing for our login as well. So let's say it's the same stuff. Rather than the register request, that is going to be our login request, and then for that we don't need the password, so we'll just use it like this, right? I guess the login structure is done, the sign up is done. So we have the backend side implementation of how the things are going to communicate with one another is done. So one more thing that we have left over here is that we need to define like the repository implementation. Right now we have repositories for others but not for the users. So just create another repository and call it user repository impl. Okay, and it is basically that's gonna take a network service, so let's call it private network service, and with that we will be using, sorry, private wall, right? And it should also extend user repository as well. And once we do that, we probably be something like this. This is going to be email, so let's just use the email for that so it doesn't complain, something like this. Okay, so this user repository implementation is done, and now we need to define our DI for that. So over here we'll create a single for this, and we will be using user implementation, but we need to define that this is going to be user repository abstraction. So now I guess this is the DI part is done, and we'll get back to our domain section, and inside this use case we need to define the factories for both our use cases that we are going to create, that which means that the one is going to be login use case, right, and it should take one parameter. The second one is going to be factory register use case, right, and this will be taking also one parameter as Now all these kind of stuff is done over here. What next we need to do is that we need to work on our UI screens and start working looking into implementing the design for that, right? So what I'll do is that I'll get over here into my presentation section, and inside this feature, the first thing that we will do is that we'll create a package, right? Sorry, not a package with the name of user, or let's say account. Okay, you can also name it authentication. It's totally up to you what you want. And inside that, I'll create another package, and that is going to be login, right? And this means that we also need one more package, and that is going to be register. Okay, so now we have this login and we have register over here. So I'll start with login first, and I'll create a Kotlin class for the view model. So let's create a login view model class. This is it, and this should take a login use case. So I'll just auto generate whatever there has created for me. You definitely don't need to use this live data. So over here, what I'm going to do is that I'll just get rid of that for now. This is my view model that is set up, and now what next we need to do is that we'll create a shield class login states, which means idle, which is going to be the normal state. Then we have a loading state, then we have a success state, and then we have an error case. For success case, it's more like a message than just a simple state, which means that the user now should be taken to another class without any issue. And for error, we definitely need to show some sort of message to the user. So I guess these are the things that we need to do. And now over here, what we will do is that we'll create a state now, right? So which means this, and that is going to be mutable state flow for that. And I guess that's something like this. Okay, now let's make sure to use this login state as private and create a non-mutable state for that, like this. Along with that, I'll create a login functionality over here as well, and it should not be like this. It should be something view model scope dot launch, and now we will go for login use case dot execute, and we'll pass something like this. Okay, now we don't need this because this is going to return a response, so I'm gonna be very straightforward with that. And now inside response, what I'm gonna do is that we'll call it when, and response, that is going to be success this, and this is also going to be result dot failure. Okay, now this means that it is success, but for this what we are response as result wrapper dot failure, and now inside that we are going to call it an exception dot message, else we'll say something went wrong. So something like this. Okay, it says to remove this. Okay, we can remove that as well. So something like this we will be using, which means that this is basically the exception message that comes from the backend, and if there is it's a null message, or like it doesn't have anything, we will pass the something went wrong over here. So I guess this is our login done, and we'll be pretty much replicating the same flow for that. So I'm just gonna copy this, paste it over here, and rather than using login over here, we'll just replace it with this one. Okay, and now let's just change these things that it uses, like something like this. So register use case, the first thing, and along with that, this is going to be register state. So I'll just copy this and paste all these places. Okay, and now over here, rather than using this, we'll be using register. Okay, and one more thing that for register we also need a name as well, so we'll pass the name to that as well and pass this something like this. Okay, it's we can use directly. Okay, just a couple of things more to do. Register, that is also going to be register state, right? And that is going to be register state. So we just need to update these as well so that it shows properly. So now you can see that I have everything updated accordingly. It's just the same view model, just a couple of changes that we needed, so I have updated it. Like I just copy pasted it and updated, and now we have the login view model over here. We have a register model view over here that are just like this. Let's try that and add the view model inside the dependency injection. So this is going to be login view model and this is going to be register view model. Now let's create some designs for that. So let's create a new file. I'll call it login screen. Okay, so over here what I'm gonna do is that I'll say composable, and that is going to be my login screen, right? And it should like contain a couple of things, like it should say nav controller, right? And along with that we'll also have a login view model that is going to be a Koin view model, right? So let's just do that. Okay, that's one thing. And the next thing along with that we need to do is that let's create a preview sections for that. But before going for preview, what I'm gonna say that I'll say login content. Okay, that's important. And now what I'll do is that I'll create another composable over here, and inside that what I'll say that I'll preview login screen, and inside that I'm gonna call login content, right? So that is done, and we also need to define preview as an annotation, and show background should also be there so that it says that okay, there is something. Okay, now you know that the first thing that over here, like in a login screen, what I'll need is that I need a column. Okay, and this column is supposed to contain all the content that I have. For example, it should as a start, what I'm gonna do is that I'll say modifier dot fill max size, which will mean that it will cover all the space. And then along with that, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna say, I guess that's one thing. And now what we will do is that we will say vertical arrangement should stay as arrangements dot center, and horizontally it should also be aligned. So we'll do this, right? Now we have this stuff done. Now the next thing that we need over here is that I will create a text over here, right? And this text mean that this should contain login screen rather than login, should call it login. And we should also style it, right? So for style, I'm gonna say material theme dot typography dot title medium, so that it takes the font size, and along with that it also update the structure of that, right? The next thing over here that I'll do is that let's create a text field, or let's call it an outline text field, right? And since it will like have some sort of name and things like that, so for now let's just use empty for both, and we will update the states of that. But other than that, there are some sort of properties that we need to define. So the first property is the padding, and it's important to add padding, but the padding should not be like that much. So let's just call it this dp, and also that should also get as a vertical, right, padding. And what else, we need to also fill max width as well, so that it covers the spacing that it have. Okay, that's one thing. That is going to be for our email, let's say, and then this is going to be the password for that. the third one is going to be a button. So we'll just add a button over here, and this button should be also have almost the same properties. So it should be like modifier is equals to modifier dot fill max width, and inside that the text should say login, which should display it, right? So now we have this thing done, but it looks really bad, right? So just add some stuff to it, like padding, and it should take all these paddings from like this. One thing, the title might be looking very small, so let's just make it a little bigger. Okay, and this padding looks quite high, so let's just reduce that. What else we can do? Yeah, we can also add some labels to this. So this label means that this will take as an email, and this label should take as, for this we will add label as text password. Along with that, we will also show some sort of visual transformation for that. That is important because you don't want to show your password as when someone input it. So that's why we will hide it with the stars. So that's important, right? And this last thing means that now we should be collecting all the data and passing it to the above section. And for that, what we will do is that we'll create some states. So this is going to be wall state is wall email is equals to remember, right? And that is going to be mutable state of an empty for now. Okay, this is going to be for email, and the next one is going to be for password. Okay, now which means that now we need to update these values over here. This is going to be email dot value, and inside that it should be something like this. Same goes for this one. This is going to be password dot value, and inside that let's use it password dot value is equals to. Okay, now these things are done, and along with that, let's enable the button only when user have input something. You can add as much validation for, like for email, you can also add some formatting to verify that the email is not empty and it's like follow the proper pattern. So you can do that as well, but I'm just not doing it for now because it will just take a lot of more time, and it can be a healthy exercise for you guys to implement that. So you can add validation, like over here I've just added the validation as an empty. You can add the rest of the implementation for that as well. Okay, so now when user clicks, we would like to pass this whole thing to over here, because this is the place where we will be using it, and using the view model and nav controller we will update the stuff. So how should we do that? So to do that, what I'm gonna do is that I'll say on sign in clicked, and now it should contain at least three different two different strings, right? And that is going to be unit. Oh, sorry, you need to add this as well. Okay, so which means that this function should be like sending two different parameters, like receiving two different parameters when called from here. And over here what I'm going to do that I'll use this something like this. Should also say email comma password like this. Now basically these are the same thing that we will be passing over here. Now over here when user click on that, this means that when I execute it, we will be passing these two values to this, and now that value should be received over here, which means now we can use the view model and log in it over here. Now this is done. Along with that, we also need to take care of our state as well, right? So for state, what I'm going to do is that we will be doing login state dot collect as state, and we will be using something like this, like is login state dot loading, and then we will have a else section as well, which means that if it's a success, we would like to navigate, If it's a error state, we will do another stuff, anything like show some sort of message. In term of the idle states, only in that case I would like to show it some sort of this. For loading, I'll just show some sort of circular progress indicator, and then along with that let's just add some text as well with some stuff like this. Okay. This is login. For error, we will be using error message, so just create text state.message. And for navigation controller, that is important because you don't want to do it like for multiple effects, so multiple times. So I'll just use login effect, and I'll use the login state dot value for that, which means that it should be done once for that. And from over here, what we can do is that we can navigate to home, which is, I guess this is the navigation that I need to do. Okay, so now we have this login screen done, right? And now this preview should also require some things like that, so we'll just do it this way. Now the login is done, and now let's just see if this whole login stuff that we have implemented actually works as well, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'll go to main activity over here, and you can see that we have all these composables being set over here, right? So over here, what I'll do is I'll add another composable over here, composable, right? We don't have a login for now, but what we can do is that we can use the login this, and also it should not show the navigation bar for now, so we'll just use this. Right now over here inside this home, we can create some things like home screen should be login, and this is going to be register screen. These are the two objects that we will be using, and now let's just call it login screen, right? And then from the beginning, which should, like right now you can see that we pass the start destination as home. Let's just use login screen. And now let's just try with the email. Let's say furqan@gmail.com. The password is going to be 123456, and now let's just try to log in. Definitely this login should be fixed, and it says that input fields are required for type with serial name, user response, but they were missing. Okay, so basically the problem over here, I'll explain what does it mean. That now over here this user response contain these things, right? But the mistake that I did was that actually it was something like that. So the data is basically the user object that we have created. We missed all these things, since the backend is sending this as a response, and it is trying to access these internal parameters from in the outside object. So it's failing, right? So that's why we have to create a response. So that is going to be user or response in our case, and it will create this. We don't need the data, so I'll just create the data class and delete it. And now inside this user auth responses, this is basically my user response object, right? And make sure to make it serializable as well, so that it works according to that. And now inside my implementation for this, now over here inside this login implementation and sign up implementation, we are using this, right, which is not required. So I'll just update it to this, and now it will complain. So that's why I will call it data.toModel, and same goes for this one. It's going to be data.toModel. Now when I run it, hopefully this time it will execute it accordingly, and it will not create this problem that we see. And meanwhile it's been building. What we will do is that we will work on this whole screen to look better. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to wrap everything inside a column. That's the first thing. So I'm going to wrap everything inside a column like this. And the column should have these properties, most probably, like if not all, most of its properties should be like this. So what I'm going to do is that I'm taking off the padding, but the rest should be like this. Now let's just try, like, run it again. And now you will, hopefully this time we will be able to sign in, do our stuff that we want. So what I'm going to do is that I'll use my email at gmail.com. Password is going to be 123456. And now let's just do login. This login's fixed. And now you can see that it takes me to this, which means that it is logged in, right? Now the problem over here, one issue that you will face, that, like, let's say if I when I reopen it, it will again show me this specific screen, like the login screen. And in this case, since I have already logged in, I don't want to get to this screen. So we need to fix that. And once we fix that, we can just incorporate the register screen as well. And then I guess we will be good to go. So how do we do that? For that, what I'll do is that I'll create a session object inside inside this presentation section. Let's just create another class or a singleton object. Let's call it shopper session. Okay, and this is going to be an object. So now over here we want to store some details about user. So in our case, what I want is that I want to store the user object and then retrieve it whenever I need it, right? And for that I'll be using shared preferences, because that will help me store the temporary things and stuff like that. And now over here what I'm gonna do is that I'll use Koin component for this. What this means, that this will help me inject different kind of stuff into this. So this is one thing. And now over here what I can do is that I'll say while context is equals to context, which is equals to by inject. Okay, something like this. Store user is equals to store user, and that is going to be user, that is going to take user domain model in this case. So there are two ways to store it. One way is to like store as a one JSON string and then use it when we need it. The second way is this way, where basically we use the shared preferences and put all these single values into shared preferences, right? And this is the user that we need to make sure to take care of. And in the next case, what I'm going to do is that we'll say user get user, which means that if the user is available, it will create these information, and if like none of these things are null, it will return, else it will be null. So these are the two functions that I guess we can use for now. And now what we do over here is that in this shopper section, let's say over here we will say that if shopper session dot get user not equals to null, which means the user is already logged in that case we will be using home screen, else we will use login screen, and we need to set it to some variable. So let's say that is going to be our start. Okay, now this start should go over here. This is something like this, or maybe you can do is that you can just take everything from here and then directly place it over here. This will also work. Okay, so now this is done, and now we also want to store when user successfully login. So for that we will go to our login view model. Where is my login view model? Over here in this login view model, and you can see that over here it is called a success. So over here let's just call it shopper session dot get user, and that is going to be dot store user, and that is going to be something like this. Okay, this means that it will store the user into that session. And now let's see if what I have done is actually working as we expect. Let's see. Let's call it Furqan at gmail.com. Password is 123456. Now login. It's logged in. Let me just close this, go to shopper, and now you can see that this time it didn't go back to my like login screen, and it just like directly opened because now it contains all these IDs and these kind of things, right? So this is how basically you can do it. Now our logins flow is done. There is just one more thing inside this login section that I need to add, and that is going to be where's my login screen. Inside this login screen, what we want is that we want to have another text that should say don't have an account, and that should say register, right? And this is also going to be modifier dot, first thing is padding. We need to add some padding to this, so an EDP padding from each side dot, it should also be clickable, and once it is clickable, which means that we also need to pass this to this, which means that on register clicked. Okay, and in this case we are not passing anything, so that's why I will just use it this way. Now over here, just make sure to pass this, and now inside this clickable function we need to define this, which means that now user have click, and in this case what we will do is that we will just navigate the user to the register screen. Okay, and now let's do over here, and now this means that this is going to be a register screen. Okay, so I guess we have done pretty much what we wanted. Now let's just start working on creating our register screen. Now over here in this register screen, let's just create over here a new class and call it register screen. Make sure it's a file. And now again, let's just, now there's two ways. One way is to create all these things again that I've already done over here inside this login screen. And I think I'll just go with this specific formula. I'll just copy these, right? And I'll paste it inside this register screen. I'll definitely rename them, but let's just use these for now. For this, I'm gonna call it register. Okay, so basically make sure that if you're copying pasting to not miss anything, so that it just breaks. And like now you can see that it will definitely ask for a lot of things to update, and now over here it should say register, and what else? I guess that's enough. Now this error, I'll fix this error, but over here, let's get over here. Along with all these things like email, password, we also need a name in case of register. So I'll just use another field over here, and now along with this email that we have, I'll add one more thing, and that is going to be name, right? And this is going to be name.value. This is also going to be name.value. This login text should go as register. Okay, and then this login content should be called as register content. Okay, and this says that on sign in clicked, and this is going to be on register clicked, and this time it should be say that on sign in clicked. Now one more thing over here is that this parameter required three things. Like previously it was just email and password. In register case we want to pass username, password, and name as well, right? So these are the three things. This should say on register clicked along with name.value, and this should also, let's just add this name parameters condition to that as well, and this is going to be on sign in clicked. I guess that's pretty much, we don't need the preview. And over here it will say, so that is register content, that is going to be on register clicked, and along with password let's use the name as well, and that is going to be register password, and now pass name as well. Just make sure that the format that you're passing is correct. Like for first is email, second is name, and third is, sorry, first is email, second is password, and third is name. And over here we are using the same. If you are not sure, just make sure to add these identifier before passing. That way it will be easier if for you to understand as well, and less there will be less chances to that you make any error, right? And in this case, the sign in click. Now one more thing which is like very interesting over here is like when you click sign in, you have already come from the sign in screen, so you won't navigate to the sign in screen. In this case, let's just pop back. This means that it will just go to the previous screen rather than taking another screen. And I guess that's pretty much what we have done. Register screen view model should handle everything regarding to register. We have already done all these kind of implementation over there. And then yes, that's pretty much. Now let's just add this register screen to the main activity like this. So we have this login screen, we don't have the register screen, so let's just call it register screen over here and use this register screen like this. Okay. So this is done. Now, I guess once you do all these kind of things, there is just one more thing that I missed, and that is over here. Once you sign up the user and take it to home, you also get the user inside the response. So we need to store that, right? So for that, I'll again go to shopper session dot store user, and I'll take the value of whatever the register request gives me. In case in success case it will going to be user model, so that's I'll take that and I'll store it over here so that next time I don't have to log in. And now let's just execute and see if what I'm saying is actually working. And now I'll just do one more thing. I'll just uninstall the app so that it clears everything that's there, and we'll just try the fresh install of this. Okay, now the app just started running, and now you can see that we have this. When I click on this, it will take me to this. We need to update this message as well, but the functionality should be fine. It should just take me back, and when I go back, it should not like keep it everything in the stack. So let's just create a new account. Let's create a name, and now let's just say code with fk at gmail.com. Now the third part is going to be 1 2 3 4 5 6. Now let's just click on okay. Again, the serialization, you need to make sure that all the requests and things like that that you create should be serializable. So I'll go over here into this data section, and inside this request you'll see the register request doesn't contain a serializable. So just make sure to have these things and not miss these three values. Now let's just try again. Go over here, call it Furkan. Email should be code with fk at gmail.com, and this is going to be 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, and now when I go and click on that, it should take me like it should let me register it. But let's say the account that I created, I want to log in with that account. So I'll just again reinstall it, and I'll see if now this time I can log in with the same fields, same input that I use for registering account. So let's say it should be code with fk at gmail.com. Password is going to be 1 2 3 4 5 6. And now let's just click on login, and now you can see that it takes me, it means that the login is working. Now if you remember, we have used user IDs at different sections, hard coded and like things like that. So we need to like go through whole project and fix that using the user ID now that we have. So if we go to my network service implementation, this is the best part to start with. And now you can start from top. For get products, you don't need anything. For get categories, you don't any. Now you to get add to cart, you should remember that we are passing a user ID into this, right? So you need to make sure that this comes from outside, right? So let's just call it user ID, and that is going to be a long. Okay, now this is going to complain. Definitely I understand, so we'll just fix this. Now this means that this is going to complain because this network service that we have doesn't have this. So I'll go to my network service, and now you can see over here add to cart doesn't have it, so we'll just create a user ID into this. Okay, and if I remember, we also need a user ID for this. Oh, sorry, not over here. When we are fetching the cart, we need a user ID. When we are updating the quantity, we need a user ID. Placing order, we need a user ID. Even getting order, that should also take for one user. So I guess all these should contain this user ID. And let's just do one more thing. Rather than using integer, let's use long, because I guess long should be the right parameter if you are like working with a long, with a scalable project. So let's just use long over here. Right now it will start complaining because it will say that we don't have these parameters for the other functionalities. Like over here you can see we have this. Just add this into this. Now I'll add this to this functionality as well. This already have a did, not sure. Okay, it should take a long rather than this, and this should also take a long, since, and this is going to be long. For get order list, we also need to have a user ID, and I guess that should pretty much do our job. And now we just need to replace this one that we have used at different places where we were not passing this user ID. So just make sure to add these, like replace them. And now you can see that I have pretty much replaced all these places. Now problem will arise inside this repositories. Where is the repositories? If I go to my this repository implementations over here, every repository will start complaining because they don't know what it is, right? And so now for that, what we will do is that we will start getting like updating our repositories as well. And for that, I'll first go to my domain section, and I'll start with this cart repository, and I'm gonna use user ID as long. Okay, so that is one thing. For cart we need it, for this we need it, we already have this, but it should be long in this case, and it should also be long in this case. So just make sure to update these over here. And now for get categories you don't need it, for orders you need it. So let once, like when user place an order, you need that, and when you are trying to fetch the order, you need the user ID as well. So yes, for product repository you don't need it, and for user you don't need it. So now we will go back to our implementation, and now it will start complaining as before. So we just need to cache it. Right, and pass this user ID into this. We also have to add it over here as user ID, and this should be long. This should also be long. I guess that's done. Now go back to order repositories. Over here we'll be using this, and instead of this we'll be passing it like this, and over here let's just use it this way. So I've just updated all these repositories and their implementation, and now use cases are left. So let's just go to use cases and one by one look into what we can do to fix this. User ID and get card summary also needs a user ID, but it's just say that it should be long. So I would say it's a straightforward thing. Again, long. For get cart use case, you need to have a user ID, and this is going to be the user ID that we pass. For get categories you don't need, for product you don't need, for order listing you need the user ID. So this is something that we will pass. Sorry, should not be like this, should this. Okay, place orders definitely need this, and over here we'll also pass user ID, and I guess update quantity should also contain it. So now I guess that this is also done, and you can see that this whole implementation for this is there. what else do we have left? I guess now we need to go through the view models, because those view models should require these things. And now I'll go with the cart view model first, and since now you can see that this is uh, starting to complain about it, and we don't have the user ID right now in at this place and even in the structure. So what I'm gonna do is that, let's do it this way: wall user domain model, okay, and that is going to be session like shoppers session dot get user. Now from this domain model we are going to get the ID too long. Just make sure this is not like this. We'll be using the same functionality for this over here as well. Now let's just use this same thing for all the other view models where we have this issue. So I'll just use this, and now let's just use this again. We'll do over here, you can see this, we have this user ID, so that should be pretty straightforward. Wall user domain model is equals to session, and instead of 1 let's just use this, and too long as well. Oh sorry, should not be here, or maybe if we are passing it inside it, we should. Okay, I guess that's done. For summary again, wall model, and then just, okay, so this is already there, so we're not gonna use it this way, but over here we need to define long. Okay, so that's done, and for this we'll be using the same, this section like this. I guess that's pretty much done. Over here, if I go over here, it says that there is no order because this user doesn't have any orders, and unfortunately I don't have any cart section right now, so I need to add a cart section. I remember we discussed it in the last video, but I forget it. So what I'm gonna do is that I'll add the cart to my home screen, and for that I need to go to my home screen, and inside over here, like you can see, this is the image that is there. What I'll do is that I'll create a raw for that. I'll use this image one as there. Along with that, we'll also use this. And as a modifier, what we will do is that I'll use this inside this raw as well for this. We don't need the size for that. But yeah, that alignment should not be there. So that's pretty much what I'm going to do over here. And now what I need is that I need the cart icon over here for that. So I have just downloaded one from Google, and I'm gonna use that for, so this is my shopping cart icon. I see cart, finish, and then what I'm gonna do is that I'll call it I see cart. Okay, and we also need to make it a clickable, and once it's clicked we will be navigating to, it's not calling. Okay, so just we need to call it back, and in case of on cart clicked, right, so something like this, on cart clicked, and from over here we'll just call it this way, and this means that when we are using it anywhere like over here, we should have another functionality to go back to something like this, and we'll pass on cart click to this, and now we go back to this section, and now you can see that over here we have this on click. Along with that, we'll also say then cart click, and in this case we will be go to cart screen and make sure to select the proper navigation so that it doesn't break for you. Now let's just run this code again for one more time, and this time we should have, oh, we already got these two icons, so pretty good. Now this time we will have two different cards, two different icons. One will be the notification and one is going to be the cart. And when I add some item and go to cart, you'll be able to see that for one user it will be different cart and for the other it should be different. Okay, I don't see any card icon, which is bad. But yeah, let's just do one thing. Let's just try to add some products. I've added this. Now I'll go over here and I click on this. You'll see that it loads this cart. And now if I go back to home, you will see over here, we need to fix that icon as well. So let's just go to my newly added icon over here inside this drawable. I see card and it's white, so let's just make it a little gray. Maybe 757575 should work. Now we have this card over here and then you can use it, you can see it. Okay, now this was for one user, right? So now let's just like try to log in another user on a different mod like emulator and see if that user also have the same. That so basically I'll use the my previous user that I created. I'll just add some more item to this. Like right now this cart contains this headphones, right? So let's just go and add this Nike and add this as well. Now this has been added to cart as well, and if I go to over here it should say that we have this cart. And now over here it will take me to this section. Let's just open this furkan@gmail.com, and that is going to be 1 2 3 4 5 6. I'll just go to login, and once it is logged in, you'll see. Now the thing is, when I go to orders, when I go to cart, it have nothing, but over here it has these things, right? And then when I, let's suppose, go back in the navigation and try to add a different product, like this time I've added this iPhone, and we'll go back to cart this time. From here you can see that now we have this iPhone over here, and these are like two differently managed. So this was basically how we manage the user creation and how we have updated into existing application, and our whole application should work accordingly. There is some issue with the order placing right now from the backend, so I'll just fix that, and other than that I guess we are good. So this was the part one, and there is just one more thing, like a one more thing to add to the second part, and that is basically we would like to have a different locale for our like for our screen. So like for if we're running for French, it should be translating the application into French, and if we are running it for English, it should show English. So for that, what we will do is that I'll just do for one screen, like two screen, the login and the sign up screen, and you can maybe take on the other screen and update the other screens accordingly. But yeah, so over here, let's just go to our presentation module, and inside this presentation module, you will see that you will have a value section over here, right? Inside this resources, and inside resources, you have this values, and inside this value, you will see strings.xml. Now, these are the strings.xml. Over here, what you need to do is you need to define all the action, all the strings that are there inside your code. And since I mentioned that I'll be doing it for the login and sign up screen, what I'm going to do is that I'll open this strings.xml file. I'll open login screen, and I'll open register screen over here. Okay. Now you can see that it has, we'll start from the top and going down. This is the first thing that I see over here. So now you can see that I have this loading. So I'll just take this, and I'll go over here to string and define a string named, should be string and name for that. should be loading, right? And inside loading, I'll just add this. Now it will say that you need to have this default. Okay, so now I have this loading, right? And I'll go to my register screen, and now over here it's complaining. So for that, what I'm gonna do is that I'll say string resources, right? And then what we'll do is that r dot string, okay, and inside string will pass loading, and you need to import that R file accordingly, so I'll just import that. Now you can see that this is going to come from the loading from the string resource, and then we'll go slightly down further, and over here this is this register. So I'm just going to take this and go to strings, and let's just use string name register and use it this way. And over here I'll go back, and again we'll use string resources, and then that is going to be r dot string dot register. Okay, that is done. And now again for the name we'll be doing the same thing, so I'll just do a couple of things like this over here and make it name. For email it is going to be this, and I'll call it email. For password I'll do this and call it password. This is basically the shortcut way that I'm going to show you. And since this is going to be the register, so this for that we are going to keep it this way. This is going to have this string, so we'll just say string resource r dot string dot already have an account, let's say. Okay, let's just do it this way. Now once you have these errors, like you can see that it's not able to find it, so what we need to do is that we need to press option enter in Android, in a MacBook, and if you have a and Windows system, you can go for alt enter, and then when you do that it will say that create string value resource. You just click on that and store place that and then press enter. We are going to do the same thing for password now, and we are going to do the same thing for email, and also the same thing for name. Just one thing, make sure one thing, that these names that you define inside the string should be lowercase all. Okay, all these resources inside this resource section should have lowercase names. You cannot have uppercase name or like add things like that, so that it makes like mess up. You can also not use dashes as well, and there is like a lot more into this. Now the logins, sorry, the sign register screen is done. Now let's just go to login screen and start working on that. If you remember, we already have a loading screen done, so I'll just use string resource r dot strings dot loading. Okay, and the thing is that you need to import the R file for that, so let's just import it. Now it's been imported. What else do we have? We have this login, so we'll just use string resource r dot string dot login. We don't have the login, so I'll just press alt enter and write in login inside this. That's done. Then for email we already have it, so I'll just use this and let's make it email out of it. For password we have password like this, and then for login we already have a login, so we'll use this. And now it should say string resource r dot string dot don't, sorry, it should be don't have account, right? So I'll just create a new, and again don't have an account register. So these are the strings that I've done, and now all these things goes to our strings.xml file. There is just one thing that we need to change. It should be already have an account, and make it login. Now let's say we have these strings, right? So what I'll do is that we'll create another resource file this time. Let's say I want to translate to French. So for French, there is this language FR, and let's name it string.xml. So what I did is that I created a new file, strings.xml, and in case of values, I added this FR as well. Now when I go over there, you will see that we have a new string file created over here that says this, but it doesn't have anything, right? So now what I'll do is that I'll try to translate these. So for that, I'm gonna get some help from ChatGPT. Okay, so I have got these translated, and now you can see that it says we definitely need, for apostrophe, you need to define these specific slashes. But yeah, now you have this French and you already have this. Now let's just run the code. I'll just have to uninstall it on the API 30 emulator so that I can see if the login and sign up is being translated into French and how it should be done. So let's say I've just, like, the application is not there. Now it will just load it for me. Yeah, now you can see we have this section where it is like this. Now what I'll do is that I'll switch the system language to French and see if it is being impacted. So I'll just go to the settings, go to the setting of the phone, and inside this languages, go to language, and either over here what I'll do is that I'll add French. Okay, so I'll just use French from France and make it as a default language. And now over here you see this is currently in English, but as soon as I open it, it will be recreated. And now you can see that it is switched to Spanish. This message is in Spanish, this is Spanish, and all these things are in Spanish. There is just one thing, it didn't translate it into email, and that's because maybe French email also is email. So now you can see that it is in translation. If I go to the register, you will also see this is going like that. There is just one thing with the password, that it has this \n. So let's just take that out because we don't need that. Other than that, I guess this is how this specific section works. And I guess this should be it for this video. In this specific video, we have implemented the login sign up flows. We have incorporated the whole flow into the complete app. And after that, what we did is that we translated, like we specified the locale for some section of the app. For you, I have this assignment to go through all the rest of the screen and translate it into French. And in the next video, which is going to be most probably the last video of this series, we will be writing unit test and espresso testing for this whole product. I'll definitely not be implementing all the tests, but I'll show you how we can implement some basic flows, and then maybe as an assignment you guys can take up to implement the different test cases. So I guess that was it for today, and I hope you liked it. Please do comment down below if you have any questions, suggestion, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, have a great day and happy coding.